What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Chad Arms, a.k.a. Chatty Bobby.
And my name is Tony, a.k.a. Friday the 14th. That was supposed to be a little spooky because it is spooky season.
That was very spooky, dude.
You think so? Did that work? Okay.
That was spooky,
Did that work? Okay, your turn now.
I can't follow that. Look, everyone, I'm Hot Mike Chance. If you don't know me by now, then you ain't been hitting the Cash App.
Oh, talking to it. Talk your shit.
And I am BJ the DJ.
And he's back.
How's your mama doing?
Hey, how's your mama name? And we got two special guests. Typhoon and Earthquake, the natural disasters. Even though this is a WCW themed episode, it doesn't matter.
No,
They both worked there.
They were Shark, and who was he? Everybody knows who he was.
Shark and Shockmaster.
Shockmaster and the Shark.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
We're here, man. It's Halloween Havoc time, baby.
Yeah. We're in October.
We're in
this is the best time of the year.
Dude. It's hoodie season.
It is hoodie season.
Live Forever's out now. It's been out for almost a month. And
Yes.
if you don't have it, we aren't friends anymore.
Get that shit.
You really
Get
suck
that
at life, to be
Yeah, you
honest.
do.
You
Yeah,
suck
It's a
at
banger.
life.
I got 2 copies.
Hell yeah, man.
Two
Thanks
physical?
to everybody.
Yeah.
And the
And the digital, and I stream it.
you got all 4 of them.
Yeah, and I got on Apple Music.
And he runs the website.
I'm
And
gonna
he
make-
runs the website.
Hold on. Did you just say you have it on Apple Music?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got it on his computer. He got iTunes on his
Look,
computer.
if you don't have
I
an
got it on my
Android,
computer.
if you don't have an Apple, it's no excuse.
I had to remember
You-
that I had Apple Music.
yeah.
I was like, I got iTunes. Let me go ahead and pre-order this
Yeah, I was
thing.
fixing to say the
Bam.
Android.
So get it on everything.
Yeah.
But
Hell
hey,
yeah.
hold on. Switch it up though. We may have some converters coming up here soon with the new iPhone 15 that's coming out.
I've been hearing. I hear things.
Rumor on the street is that Hot Mike's making that change.
I probably already have it. You just don't know about it yet. You just don't know about it yet.
We are in the future right now.
We are in the future. We are in the future.
Yep.
Wow.
When does the
definitely
phone?
in the
When does the
future.
15 even come out? Does it come out in October?
Yeah, it'll be out, I'm sure.
Wow, we are technically in the future.
I really don't know the date of the release date of it. So
You can pre-order it. You could have pre-ordered it back in September.
Just like
Okay.
you could pre-order Live Forever.
yeah, bam.
If you
But
have
it's
it,
already
then,
out.
yeah, it sucks. You guys, you get it.
Yep.
Should have got it already.
But we are here in October. It is this, like we already said, the spooky season. Speaking of that, I want to ask y'all, what was one of the first Halloween costumes that y'all
I was
remember?
Alf.
Alf.
The worst. Had the little hard mask with the strap.
plastic.
Yeah, I had to hold it on because the strap thing broke all the time. And it had the little slip-on costume. Alf. Nobody knew who I was either. That's the sad part.
Man, Alf was a great show back in
Kindergarten.
The day. Trying to
I
eat
was
trying to eat them kitty cats.
Yeah.
I was about to say something else. About to say something else, but he was real life trying to eat them kitty cats. What about you, Hot Mike? What was the first Halloween costume you remember wearing?
Pee Wee Herman or Beetlejuice. I'm not sure which one came first, but
Mine was an Oscar the Grouch
Yep.
costume. It was the old school, like the
Yeah.
plastic.
Yeah.
I think I had that one too.
But I remember those things were terrible because that strap,
That would always break.
that, and it would release hell upon your head if one of your friends came up behind
Everything's
you.
fogged
and
up. You
snapped
can't really
that thing
breathe
on the
in
back
there.
of your head.
I didn't have friends that were that mean to me.
Oh, I had
that's
asshole
hateful.
friends.
And then the
That's
outfit was made of like
Plastic.
garbage. Yeah, like garbage bag.
hateful.
Yep.
Garbage bag.
What about you? What was yours?
Berenstain Bear.
I
And the thing that's funny is my sister. It was a picture of me and my sister, and it's a Berenstain. I'm in a Berenstain Bear costume with the snapback mask, and she's in a Pound Puppy. And you remember how there was the whole thing? Well, it was spelled STAIN, or no? Everybody was like, no, it's STEIN. No, it says on my fucking shirt. It says AIN, so I was wrong. We were all
Hey,
lied
shout out, Carrie, by the way.
Yeah.
Shout
out to Berenstain Bears.
Yeah, shout out to the Berenstain Bears. Great children's program. Great children's books as well. Had a lot of them.
But yeah, we're here. And since this is a wrestling, we've talked about this is a Halloween Havoc this episode today since we're in October. Probably, okay, in the WCW pay-per-views, where would Halloween Havoc rank out of... Because, WWE had the big four.
Right.
What was... You had Starrcade,
Great American Bash.
Clash of the Champions.
That wasn't a pay-per-view.
That
That was
wasn't
a
Yeah,
giveaway.
it was like a TV
Great
special.
American Bash.
Super Brawl.
Super Brawl. I don't really know what their big four would have been. Bash at the Beach was probably their SummerSlam. Starrcade, of course, was their Mania.
Yeah.
Great American Bash would have been a third, probably their Survivor Series type. Halloween Havoc would have probably been the fourth. It's the third longest tenured pay-per-view. Yeah. But I don't know if it would be considered a big four. I mean, it's honestly some of the worst wrestling matches I've ever seen in my entire life.
I was a fan, though, as a kid, just mainly because of the set designs of Halloween. Because that's one thing WCW did over WWE, especially in the 90s, 80s, and 90s, the set designs.
Yeah.
They'd go all out on those.
It was very themed. Like, everything was themed. They'd run the commercials beforehand, and they had the videos. Like, one I was watching had some kids show up at Tony Schiavone's house to trick or treat or whatever.
Yeah.
They were very much in tune with the Halloween Havoc theme.
Yes.
Through every one of them, even the older ones with the sets. You had the
pumpkin.
The pumpkin.
You always had the pumpkins out there. Especially the one that stands out probably to me the most is Halloween Havoc 98.
98.
That with the huge pumpkin, and then you had the demon thing coming over top of the pumpkins, and you had the cemetery out there and everything. And you had some good matches in that one, but
I mean, there's definitely some really memorable moments from Halloween Havoc that stand out. But overall,
I'm with you.
It just has a long running history of just terrible matches.
Yeah, I agree with that totally.
Not interesting.
As a kid, it stood out more, I guess, just because, like I said, the set designs and everything. And as a kid, everything is awesome. But
definitely.
Going back and watching some of these
it's hard watch. It's hard watch.
It was pretty rough to go through.
Yeah,
but good time. I mean, it's just perfect timing for this month. And
this was when Halloween Havoc came out in '89. This was when WCW started upping their amount of pay-per-views they did a year. Because they had Starrcade going for a couple years, and then they went up to 5. And then they would do these random one-offs like Chi-Town Rumble and Capital Combat and things like that.
Shout out Capital Combat.
Capital Combat.
Now, was War Games its own?
War Games would come in later on.
Okay,
it would be one of their long. I don't think they. It got to a point where they stopped doing that one, and I think they replaced it with like Road Wild or something.
Okay,
one of those other random one-offs that they had later on. But so they had Starrcade, Great American Bash, Bash at the Beach, Fall Brawl was another big one for them, Slamboree.
Yeah, Fall Brawl.
And then they would bring on World War III and the Road Wild and things like that. But I think War Games was included in that. Gotcha. Just random one-offs.
Which was a Dusty idea.
Dusty idea. Which was a great idea, and I think they've done it a couple different times recently with NXT and also with AEW. It just doesn't really hold the weight that it held back then.
Yeah.
It was always a major storyline involved in the ones that they did previously. The new ones, it's just like a bunch of random people in matches doing whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Now, one thing I will give to Halloween, the commentary crews on pretty much all the Halloween Havocs was awesome.
Yeah.
Especially, I didn't realize that they had such a 4-man crew going for such a long time.
They would run 2 and then come back with 2 more.
Well,
I didn't realize Jesse Ventura was as involved with WCW as he was.
In the early days.
Yeah, I didn't realize
there was
that.
some matches I watched where they had Tony Schiavone, Bobby, Dusty, and what was the other guys? He was small. Mike Tenay.
Mike Tenay.
All 4 of them calling one match.
Yep.
Yeah.
And everything. And that's pretty impressive when you got especially Dusty and Bobby.
And one thing I forgot also about the commentary team later on, like in the last few years, they had Stevie Ray at the announce table.
Shout out Stevie
Ray was a part of the announce team too. Yeah, definitely. I forgot all about him being an announcer at any point.
He's got a pretty good podcast too.
Does he? Mm-hmm. Stevie Ray does. Shout out Stevie Ray.
Hey,
if
you're watching, Stevie, come on.
Jeff Jarrett won't reply to us, so maybe Stevie Ray.
Come on, Jeff.
What's up, Stevie Ray?
Hashtag 50th episode. We're trying to get Jeff Jarrett on here.
Make
for
that happen,
50th
guys.
episode.
Y'all tag Jeff Jarrett in everything.
Out in the comments, tag Jeff Jarrett. Hashtag 50th episode for Over the Top. Jeff Jarrett.
That's JEFF.
He ain't got far to go. We're right here. We're close to him. We can get him all the amenities he wants.
We'd even come to him.
Yeah. Hashtag 50th episode. Jeff Jarrett.
Let's do it.
Hell yeah.
There's got to be a shorter hashtag for that.
We'll figure it out.
Hashtag double J. Double J 50. Hashtag
there we go.
50.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's do it.
So I guess we'll just start from the beginning, man. We'll kind of go through them pretty quick. There's a bunch of them.
1989,
which was the inaugural one, right?
Yep.
89
89 was the one.
We didn't have there wasn't much of a set. There wasn't a set design.
No. It had the really big curtains. It almost looked like a play. Had the big curtains, the long ramp, all the way up to the ring, of course.
Which we've talked about before. Me and BJ were huge fans of the ramp all the way up to the ring. It just added a little elegance to it.
I think it just set them apart. It was just different. Yeah. The first thing about 1989 I noticed was this was the debut of Doom under a mask, and they were led to the ring by Woman. And they were going against the Steiner brothers. The backstory to this was Woman was flirting with Rick Steiner and ended up costing the Steiner brothers the tag titles. And Missy Hyatt and Scott were like, we don't trust this woman. We don't do this. We don't like her. And come to find out they were right because she ended up turning on Rick and told them that Halloween Havoc, they would meet their Doom. And that's when Doom debuted under the mask. And I mean, they were jacked. Big monster guys, man.
That was a stiff match working.
I mean, it was tough, dude. But I remember and I think I'll touch on this later on again. Like that Frankensteiner move, man. When he hits that, they pop bigger. That move was so over. But them two beat the snot out of each other, man. It was awful.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It looks like you had who else on there? You had Luger and Pillman.
U.S.
which
title.
was Pillman's coming out party.
That was
pretty
his
much.
coming out party.
For the United States title, and it's probably. Pillman carried that match, and it's probably Luger's best match of his whole career.
That would have been one that I think, Luger looked really solid in that match. He gave a lot to Pillman. But Pillman really, really worked Luger. And anybody who's ever said Luger's not a good worker, watch that match, and I think you'll think otherwise. Because Pillman wasn't the most coordinated when it comes to certain high-flying moves, but all that stuff was new then. Nobody was really doing it.
And he's coming off of being a safety in the NFL.
Right. So, but no, both of those guys, man, really good match for the U.S. title.
Was he a safety or a linebacker for the Bengals?
I think he was a linebacker.
I think he was he like a middle line? No,
was he a small
linebacker?
He was a small linebacker.
I think he was though. I think he was linebacker.
Or was he a nose tackle?
No, I think he was a linebacker.
Really?
I think. I'm pretty sure. But that just shows how he was another like Kurt Angle, how natural he just flowed right into it.
Definitely. Yeah, Pillman very underappreciated, I think. He did a lot for the cruiserweight division. He was probably one of the OGs when it comes to the light heavyweight division and the cruiserweights, what it would become. And some of the stuff he was doing was a lot of high-flying drop kicks off the top rope, flying body presses and things like that, just different for that time period. Very exciting, very innovative, but he really worked Luger that match.
Yeah. So. And another one of Brian Pillman's, we've talked about it before, that Jushin Thunder Liger match.
Oh, yeah. And I think Jushin Thunder Liger has some matches coming up that we'll talk about it at a different episode of Halloween Havoc. But yeah, Liger was huge in that whole innovation of cruiserweights and light heavyweights and stuff like that.
And then you had the main event being the Thunderdome match.
Thunderdome, a.k.a. the Hell in the Cell before the Hell in the Cell was a Hell in the Cell.
This was Hell in the Cell before Hell in the Cell. It was so crazy, too, because you talked about the stage setup and the gimmick associated with the Thunderdome. At the beginning of the match, it's funny, at the beginning of the match, some brush that was used as decoration on the cage caught on fire. And they were trying to get it to go out. Well, Muda climbs up the cage and he blows his mist on it to get it to go out. And it's so funny because when he does it, everyone starts clapping. Of course, he's the heel. They're not supposed to, but he starts clapping. So,
dude, Muda used to scare me as a kid.
I was scared of Muda, too.
Dude, he's just the green mist, just especially being a Sting fan.
Yeah.
Muda was just a presence that terrified me.
And I'm trying to think, this would have been when Sting was with the Four Horsemen because Ole was there as well. So Sting would have been a member of the Four Horsemen during this match. And they were going against Funk and Muda. One thing I noticed about Funk was ripped.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
This time period. I'm used to Funk looking kind of sloppy and daddish, but he was chiseled. He come to the ring looking like a cowboy. He wasn't going. The finish of this match is what I didn't like, though. So Ole hits Gary Hart. Gary Hart throws in a towel because the momentum of his arm when he got hit threw the towel in, and they called the match. It was a stupid finish. Had it been a Dusty finish, but it was a stupid finish.
Sounds like a Dusty finish.
It had to have been a Dusty finish, but it was a stupid finish to a very gimmicky match. But it would be you could see with this match and with the one we'll talk about here in a minute. Where Hell in the Cell came from, the idea for Hell in the Cell came from. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that thing was a monstrosity.
Yeah, it was rather intimidating.
Yeah, definitely.
Can you imagine walking into that thing? It's like, what the fuck?
And I think that's what they were looking at when they walked into it. You can look at their faces like, what are we going to do with this?
Yeah.
This thing is huge. And like I said, Muda spent a lot of time trying to climb up on top of it and everything. Like, dude, wrestle. Like,
yeah.
What are you doing?
You're at that time, one of the best wrestlers in the world.
Oh, yeah. Like, what are you doing?
What are we doing here?
This is what we need to start talking about, though. 1990 Halloween Havoc, right?
Lord.
You had Barry Horowitz and Tim Horner and Rip Roger
and Reno Riggins in the dark matches.
Reno Riggins.
The worst dark matches ever.
I met Reno Riggins at Shoney's in Nashville.
I don't doubt it.
And recognized him. He was having a business meeting with someone.
He wrestled with Tony Hall. Tony Falk there for a while.
I went up to him and asked for his autograph, and the person he was with said, "You know him?"
Yeah. That makes him feel good, too. You're like, Reno Riggins.
Yeah, I watch him at the fairgrounds all the time.
I mean the preliminary matches weren't any better. You had Tommy Rich and Ricky Morton because I think Robert Gibson was hurt.
Yeah.
So you had them versus the Midnight Express with Cornette. That was a good old Southern wrestling match there.
Mm-hmm.
And you can guess how that one ended. The old racket came into play. Old Jimmy Cornette got involved.
Jimmy Cornette.
Steiner's and Nasty Boys for the U.S. tag titles. I think I've talked about this. I love those U.S. tag titles. I mean, it was so great to have a secondary tag team title.
Yeah.
And this match, I mean, I loved the Nasty Boy Steiner feud. I thought it was very underappreciated.
I agree with that.
It started out really, really slow. Like the Nasty Boys were your bruisers. Steiner's, of course, worked stiff, but when it picked up, man, it picked up.
Well, the Nasty Boys were a stiff crew.
Yes.
It was going back and forth in that one. There was some potatoes landed in that one.
Oh yeah, if it's the Steiners and the Nasty Boys, there's gonna be a lot of taters.
Oh, it was a lot, man. And a lot of outside, like wrestling outside and bringing everything back in. But when it picked up, that pace picked up, and the Steiners got hot, man. That place went nuts.
Yes. Yeah.
And Steiners retained the titles, but I always
and
loved
to get
WCW having
and
that
to get
second
knobs
title.
up on the shoulders to do and he took a nasty fall with that one too.
Yeah.
I mean, he almost broke his damn neck.
I think a lot of people don't appreciate the Nasty Boys for what they offered. Like, they were a very good tag team. They were very much in sync. They had a great gimmick.
Yeah.
I mean, it worked. Mm-hmm. And their career was, they were in the AWA, NWA, WCW, WWF. I mean, it
wasn't Knobs that took it was, what was the other one's name?
Sags.
Yeah, Sags. It was Sags that took it.
Yeah. But yeah, no, great match. I again, love that rivalry. I appreciate the Nasty Boys for what they offered. I think a lot of people don't give them the props that they deserve for what they did. So this was a weird one too. It was Doom versus Flair and Arn for the WCW titles. Doom were the baby faces during this match. So this is, here we are a year later.
Yeah. Totally flipped.
Came out with Teddy Long, different music, still had the masks. But the Horsemen really made Doom look good. Like the way they sold the moves.
Always.
Yeah, I mean, Flair and Arn, like the chops, the punches, the body presses, like they really, really did their best to put Doom over that time. So
that just gives you more, especially for Flair too, what he would sell for people.
Oh, no doubt.
And just to make everybody look so much better than what, I don't want to say what they were, but he just made them. It made everybody look like a superstar.
Said he can go with a broom. Like Flair can go an hour with a broom and put the broom over. Like, and I seriously believe that. But even so, like not just Flair, but Arn. Much as Arn gave too.
Yeah.
Because Arn can get physical in his matches, but like he had two brutes. Like those guys. Yeah. I mean those guys were massive.
Yeah. Oh God.
And I mean everything looked big. Everything looked strong. This was like I said. There are some highlights. Even though it has a history of not being so good at pay-per-views, it did have some highlights included in it. Yeah. And this was one of them.
This is the highlight of the whole thing was Stan Hansen spitting on a pumpkin.
I don't understand that. Like there was a whole promo about Stan Hansen and a pumpkin, and he holds his pumpkin
because he fucking hated Halloween.
Yeah, I don't get it. And then he wrestles Luger for the U.S. title and beats the piss out of Luger.
Beat the fuck out of Luger, bro.
I mean, I felt bad for Luger, dude. Like
I will never feel bad for Luger. I was glad he was getting one.
Yeah, he was
between
and he had it for like 500 something days.
I didn't realize he was U.S. champion for that long.
That's crazy.
That's nuts.
And fucking pumpkin patch, goddamn
Stan Hansen chewing tobacco, spitting it all over. But that's another one that like you're standing across the ring from Stan Hansen. And it's just like. The fuck did I get myself
He's swinging
into?
that bull rope too, like just.
Well, fucking took out everywhere. Vader's eye with it.
Yeah, he's spitting everywhere. He's got slobber on him and tobacco.
Well, no, he broke his nose with the bull whip and then poked out his eye during the match.
Yeah, he's just.
Can you imagine starting off a match? He's like, "Oh, get cracked with the bull whip. I got a broken nose."
Yep.
Now
I don't ever remember him defending the U.S. title either, though. I know he won it, and then I don't know. I don't know what happened after that.
Crazy son of a bitch.
Yeah, he was. I did like this match too. Sting versus Sid for the WCW title. This was weird. I think this was when they were. I don't know if Sid was a part of the Four Horsemen at this point, but Wyndham was. So like Sting. Sting was hitting some moves that you haven't seen Sting. Sting's one of those guys. He does the Daredevil type stuff at times where he'll come off the top rope a lot. He actually took off down the ramp and jumped over the top rope and hit like sloppy, but he hit Sid with a move. So Sting did a lot of his high flying stuff. The finish came where Sting and Sid started wrestling in the back, and the Horsemen tied up Sting, and Sid and Barry Windham, who was dressed as Sting, came back out. And Sid pinned Wyndham, thinking it was Sting, and of course they said Sid was the champion. Yeah. Sting came out, and he said, no, that's not the case. So, of course, he had a Stinger splash, rolled him up, and then retained the title. But it was a really good finish because at one point I remember thinking, that doesn't look like Sting, but it does look like Sting. Mm-hmm. But it was Wyndham dressed as Sting. So I thought that was a really dope finish, and this was actually the final pay-per-view that they would do under the NWA banner. After that, it was strictly WCW. So they're breaking away from WCW. But more on that in another episode coming up that we'll talk about.
Yeah, they really, when WCW goes into effect, business, I don't want to say it picks up.
No.
It picks. It just picks up.
Yeah.
No, it just seems like WCW, the mid-card, wrestling-wise, the mid-card was way better than
definitely
the main eventers by far.
I mean, but it wasn't that the main eventers were bad.
It was just the match select or just the finishes.
What I didn't like was the finishes. There were always some screwy finishes, double countouts, TV time limits. Like I couldn't tell you how many matches I watched that would go to a TV time limit draw.
But were these not pay-per-views?
They were.
Yeah, but
how were they going to TV
exactly.
time limits?
Yeah,
exactly.
15-minute
time.
WCW.
Well, like we'll talk about later later where they went over and lost out on 3/4 of a match.
Absolutely.
So
91 Halloween Havoc was in Chattown, Tennessee.
Absolutely. Shout out Chattanooga.
Yeah. And let's talk about fucking Rick Rude
making his debut in WCW
as the WCW Phantom
against the Z-Man, Tom Zink.
Poor Tom Zink, man.
He went the Rude Awakening and had Paul Heyman out there with him, and then that's when he's going after the U.S. title after that too, ain't he?
Rude went after Rude would go after the U.S. title. I think Rude would immediately start a feud with Sting almost instantly after that. And I don't know if Sherry was involved in that whole ordeal.
Was that the start of the Dangerous Alliance?
I'm not sure. Maybe. I just remember. Yeah, I think Rude instantly started a feud with Sting when he arrived at WCW, and it may be this. No, it wasn't this match. It may have been he got involved in one of Sting's matches. It wasn't Halloween Havoc, but he got involved in one of Sting's matches because I think Sherry was pushing for. Sherry wanted a world champion. And I think it was around this time, but I don't think it was the Halloween Havoc pay-per-view. You did have Stunning Steve Austin and Dustin Rhodes for the TV title. That was a pretty good match. That went to a time limit draw.
Yeah.
And it literally went down to the wire. Like, the timing on that match was crazy. Yeah. Dustin was a really good worker.
Oh, yeah. Dustin was. It's crazy that he could still go to this day.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
That was 1991.
Yeah, that was a really good match. I really enjoyed that. Like, it literally went down to them a 3 count 1 second after time limit was called. Like, it was unbelievable the timing that they had in that match.
It's crazy to think that WCW had all this talent on here that would go on to be like huge stars
somewhere else.
Yep.
Yeah. These are your mid-card guys.
Yeah.
Stunning Steve Austin is your mid-card guy.
Yep. And he's got your lowest tier title. Well, not lowest tier. The next one is the lowest tier. The light heavyweight title inaugural match. You had Pillman and Ricky Morton.
I love Ricky Morton.
I get why they put Ricky Morton in there because they didn't really have a ton of guys. It would have been either Pillman and Zink and what a ton of light heavyweight guys then.
Yeah.
But what they were doing at this time, this is 91, they were starting their partnership with Japan So now you start getting Pillman and Liger, you start getting Pillman and those guys. In '91.
Yeah. And I love Ricky Morton, but I like him a lot better in the tag team.
Definitely.
With Robert. Like, but he's still one of the best workers to ever.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Mm-hmm. No, and he was a good one for Pillman to go up against for that belt. Like I said, I mean they both look good. You weren't getting much out of Ricky Morton as far as high flying.
No,
but you was gonna get worked.
And the crowd loved him or hated him.
Is this the one where he had his hair cut? Ricky Morton.
He was with the York Foundation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shout out York Foundation.
Shout out York Foundation. But he still came out with the tie-dye, with the ties on his arm, and but he had short hair. It was weird.
So,
one of the worst matches
of all time, Clusterfuck City Chamber or Fours match. Let's run them down. You got El Gigante, Steiner Brothers, Sting versus Vader, Diamond Stud, Cactus Jack, Abdullah the Butcher.
Yeah. And I think, if I remember correctly, Cactus Jack and Abdullah the Butcher weren't even supposed to be in this match. I don't know how they got involved in it or how it happened, but they somehow, some way ended up taking somebody else's place.
Putting Abdullah the Butcher in this match was insanity.
That suplex that Rick Steiner gives to him to put him in the chair is absolutely horrendous.
Yeah. And then
he pretty much just hugs him and turns around.
Dude.
And Jim Ross is on the, he belly to belly suplex him into the chair.
Bro, and it's like, why did they make it to where you have to suplex the biggest human in the entire company?
And then kill them.
Well, think about this.
And then electrocute
and the switch falls off, dude.
Yeah, so there's a scene in there where the switch is in the on position. And Cactus Jack is up there he's up there by the switch for a long time, and it's in the on position.
Yeah.
And then you see him they show it too. You see him take his hand and turn it to the off position. So
and then that's when Jim Ross said, "Oh, I thought Rick Steiner was in the chair." Like,
but if you think about it, out of all these people here, who better to throw in that chair than Abdullah the Butcher?
Well, of course, but they should have got a bunch of them to put him in there.
What I didn't get,
to where that makes more sense.
Right.
Like Rick Steiner.
Well, there's not a bunch of them that could fit in that little.
Well, that's true too. That's true too. Yeah, it's such a small area.
The funny part is, after it's over, Cactus Jack goes and takes him out of the chair, like undoes the thing on his head.
It wasn't even on his head either.
And Abdullah the Butcher starts attacking Cactus Jack, and they're tag partners too. And then
he's supposed to be dead.
He got his brain scrambled. He was Zombie the Butcher.
They had all these wardens in white clothes on the ramp, and they beat up every single one of them as they walk up the ramp, fighting each other all the way to the back.
After he got electrocuted.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, wait, that's not the end of the pay-per-view?
No, it's not.
Let's hit you with a Big Josh PN News versus the Creatures.
Who are the Creatures?
I think I tried to look it up and I couldn't find anything.
I don't think they got mentioned in the tag team
News.
episode.
I'm getting PN News on my next album.
Oh, man. Oh, boy.
Yeah,
I'm feeling like Ron Simmons and Luger had to be the main event after
that. Was the main event. This was when they were really pushing Ron Simmons, but he wasn't champion yet. Luger was champion, but they had a 2 out of 3 falls match. Pretty good match. Again, a lot of stiff shots. But really good match, 2 out of 3. Luger ended up beating Ron Simmons. So Ron Simmons would get his next.
Okay, that's what I was
the next year.
Simmons is.
He's in the main event picture, and you could tell they're pushing to see if he's going to be that guy. And then the next year is when he gets his little run with it. So, did you find out who the Creatures were?
One of them was Jumping Joey Max.
Oh wow!
Really?
Joe and Johnny Rich.
Okay.
So nobody.
Yeah.
So like,
did they have a picture of what they look like? Were they dressed up as creatures?
They looked like the Ding Dongs. They were dressed in the Ding Dongs outfits. It was just a single flesh colored.
WCW was so
it was terrible.
One of Chance's favorite.
And they just popped in there out of nowhere too. Like again, I'm watching the pay per view, and we just had the Chamber of Horrors match, and I was like, oh okay, this has got to be it. No, wait, we got another match, and then this one comes out. PN News rapping, and then here comes the Creatures. I was like, who? Who is this?
Well, I mean, anything to get PN News to stop rapping.
Exactly what I pictured.
Yeah, that's exactly what they look like. Nothing scary about them, just a flesh-colored costume
and a mask.
Yeah. So, 92 was kind of weird because 92 they're already away from the NWA, but they're still recognizing the NWA stuff. Did anybody know why they did that?
So they had the big gold belt, and I think what year was it that Flair left?
92?
Yeah, well,
92.
He was in the 92
come back?
Rumble.
Yeah.
He he won the Rumble in '92, but I think he came at the end of '91.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay,
right.
so
and when he came back in like '93.
Okay, so for some reason they had the big gold belt was recognized as the NWA title, and then they had this belt that they created when Flair left that was the international title. But they were recognizing that as the WCW title. It's so weird because eventually the big gold belt will be called the international title, and then eventually it would go on just to be the WCW title. So the lineage of that title is so weird and screwy because at this point they had two different champions. They had Masahiro Chono. He had the big gold belt. He wrestled Rude. He retained that belt against Rude. And it was another stupid finish. Rude won it by DQ because they had that stupid over-the-top rope.
Fucking Bill Watts bullshit.
Yeah, that stupid over-the-top rule.
Over-the-top rope and you fucking are disqualified.
Yeah, and it was so inconsistent in that rule, too. Like
Wasn't that Bill Watts that did
It was
that?
Bill Watts. Had to have been Bill Watts. So Masahiro Chono retained the title against Rick Rude. Title can't change hands on a DQ. So
Wasn't there another rule that he had where you couldn't jump off the top rope or something?
yeah, they had a no top rope rule.
He
What
hated
are
the
y'all
top
doing,
rope.
WCW?
He hated it.
Why
They
you
took
even
the
have a ring
pads
for
up.
it?
They had everyone getting slammed on concrete floors and everything. Like,
But you couldn't throw him out of the ring.
couldn't throw them out of the ring. Yep.
Stupid.
And so the WCW title match was Ron Simmons against the Barbarian, and Ron Simmons was
The
champion.
Barbarian is headlining. This is
It actually was no, that wasn't the headlining match.
well, he's fighting for the title.
It wasn't a bad match though. To
No,
be honest
it
with
wasn't.
you,
But
though.
I'm just saying that's just kind of where they were at.
But yeah, Ron Simmons was enjoying his little run as champion. This next match, and I'm a Sting fan. I hate this match.
Was it the first one? Was it one of the first spin the
this
wheel?
It was the first spin the wheel. I hate this
the coal
match.
miner's glove match.
What is a coal miner's glove? You had a Texas death match. You had First Blood, an I Quit match, lumberjacks with belts match, cage match.
We got a coal
miner's glove match.
And this was Jake Roberts coming over to WCW.
Yeah.
He had that career in WWF and was killing shit, bro. And he comes over here and does a fucking coal miner's glove. Just let him fight
And
Sting.
do
bro.
y'all
Get bit in
realize
the face with a snake?
Do y'all realize how tall that pole was that glove was on?
like
you had
60 foot high.
You had to scale that thing, and it's like,
ridiculous.
It's like the fucking.
And then it takes this snake bite to the face.
Yes, I was so excited about this.
You can
match.
see the terror in Sting in that. Like, when
Yes.
he's getting,
Yes.
you see Sting is legit. Like, no, I ain't fucking with this.
It was the worst way. They ruined a good match with a
Yeah.
terrible attachment and gimmick. It didn't work, man.
Yeah.
I
Coal
felt bad
miner's
too because I
glove.
really was excited about Sting and Jake Roberts, two of my favorites.
Yeah.
Going at it, and they just stupid
Coal
stipulations.
miner's
WCW,
glove.
bro. They just fuck shit up, dog.
It's
They
just
back then,
terrible.
like-
And it's like coming back to like what Chance said, just the talent that they had to manage to fuck shit up this bad.
Oh, it gets
don't-
worse. We're starting
Oh,
to get
yeah.
bad. It's starting to get bad.
yeah. Well, let's
But,
just go. Go ahead.
Yeah, just the level, just that level of talent, just the writer,
Yeah, from on
and
on
it's
all
bad to say it's
spectrum.
Dusty. It's Dusty that's doing this,
And that's that's why I
The
think
coal
in
mine on a pole match.
a previous episode I said that Dusty, I get his contributions, and he was a GOAT in every aspect of the word.
He wasn't a booker, though.
But he was a terrible booker when it
Yeah.
came to ideas.
now
finishes
promos.
to finish.
Let
yes.
him, let him control everything when it come to promos.
Yeah.
But see, and he didn't. That's the thing about Dusty. He didn't have to write his promos because they just
he
came
just
from him.
rambled. A lot of times they just rambled back then.
Yeah, that's how But not, dude. Let's just keep it going. Halloween Havoc '93, fucking opening match. Tell them the opening match. 6-man.
So you had Harlem Heat and the Equalizer. I don't even know who this guy was.
It's not Denzel Washington, but I
No,
can't wait
it's
to see
not.
that one.
Versus Ice Train,
I don't even
Charlie Norris, and the construction worker version of the Shockmaster.
the construction,
Construction
coming out
worker
wearing
version.
a hard hat.
Yeah. At this point,
Of
though,
that guy.
So
This guy right here.
Harlem Heat was new at this point because they were going by Cole and Kane instead of Booker T and Stevie Ray. So this was when they had first started. Funny thing about this, when the commentary team was Tony Schiavone and Jesse Ventura, Tony Schiavone's constantly talking about the agility of the Shockmaster, and Ventura references him tripping. He said, "I've seen him trip over barriers and rings and everything."
I can't believe after that horrible introduction,
They kept it.
That
Yeah,
they
I
even
wouldn't-
kept him with that name or anything. They should have just forgot it existed
Yeah.
and let him just be his name
Yep.
or just name him something else, man.
And I think he did get a run as Fred Ottman or something.
But why is he called the Shockmaster? He's a construction worker.
Right, yeah.
What is that? That makes no sense.
He came to the ring with with a hard hat and everything.
And
had the cut off sleeves. Yep.
Yeah. That's another way. I think Shivani is underrated as an
I love
announcer.
Shivani.
Oh, yeah,
bro. He's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
His pod is great, man. He's funny as fuck, bro.
Yeah, dude.
He's the most entertaining. Going back
and watching these, he has those little snarky, his little cut-ins, where it's just like, holy shit.
Without seeing him in the pod, you would never know how funny that dude really is.
I'm glad he's actually back in the wrestling business.
Yeah,
I'm glad he got a chance to really come back in.
Yeah. And another fucking stupid finish with this next one.
And it was a good match, too. You had William Regal and Davey Boy Smith for the TV title. I mean, them guys, it was a really good match. I've never seen a Davey Boy Smith match that I remembered other than the Bret Hart match. Yeah. But this one was decent. Like, William Regal was another underappreciated worker that would stretch you out, and he did every bit of that.
Yeah. Let's talk about, just for a second, I just want to make a reference to the previous year. Mm-hmm. Davey Boy was headlining SummerSlam in the UK.
Yeah.
The following year, he's year and some change later, he's middle of the card in WCW against Regal for a TV title.
Yeah. That's how bad he fucked up his... Because when we talked about SummerSlam, he was fucked up that whole time.
I would love to see some sort of documentary come out on Davey Boy.
Oh, I'm sure there will be one.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we also get a repeat of the previous year. This time we get Austin and Dustin Rhodes for the U.S. title. Rhodes was the champion.
Another great match.
Great match. Yeah. Another one. This one actually had a good finish. Dustin actually retains the title on a clean finish.
The U.S. and TV title, that was always kind of like the Intercontinental Championships. That they always put those on the workers.
TV title. I thought it was great to see something every Saturday morning get defended. I like the design of it. I like the silver version of it. I thought it was a great belt. And then I like the one that they did, the gold one. It just had television champion on it that Bobby Eaton wore and Steiner wore and Booker T wore. The one that they cannot find the original copy of. Like, nobody knows who has that belt.
Yep.
That's the hardest belt for them to find is that original TV
title. And I did like that they did the with the TV title. I like that they did the time limit. I do think they did the time limit draw way too much, but it gave it more of a legitimate.
It was a good one to do it too, and it was an upstart title. It was one of those you gave to somebody who you didn't quite think was ready for mid card, and definitely wasn't ready for a world title, but was good enough to be on TV every week that people loved and appreciated, or they hated it enough to get enough heat. So definitely enjoyed that title. See, this is what we were talking about, the big gold belt. You had Rude versus Flair for the WCW International title. Special guest referee of all people, we had Terry Taylor. I'm not really sure why. It was ruined by a terrible finish. So Flair uses a foreign object. Terry Taylor starts counting, but then good old Randy Anderson comes down and makes things right. Flair got disqualified for using a foreign object. So, Randy Anderson was the keeper of the peace. He was the good guy.
They're just allergic to finishing a match in WCW.
It was just so bad.
On pay-per-views.
So
it's
bad.
not like it's WCW Saturday night or something like that.
No, this is straight full-on one of their bigger pay-per-views.
Yeah. And you messed this match up. Think about this match. Rick Rude and Ric Flair. This was going to be a good match.
Just let him go.
Why is Terry Taylor there?
Yeah, just let him go.
Let him go.
Wonder if it was like ego things.
Well, so WCW, what I noticed was WCW really wanted to push Terry Taylor. Really did. Like, he was Terrence Taylor.
They crumbled his company.
Really wanted to push Terry Taylor, but he just wasn't going to. He wasn't going to work.
He's
the Brad Armstrong of.
He was Red Rooster in WWF. Yeah, that's all you need to know.
Well, that's like this next match, the main event. It's another screwy finish in a
Texas Death Match.
Texas Death Match, and you have a screwy finish with it.
But I was happy with this spin the wheel, make a deal, because the Texas Death Match with Vader and Cactus Jack made sense.
And this is prime Vader too. This is one of my favorite Vader times because he'd come out with the shoulder pads. Yeah. He'd set the helmet thing down and the fog would come out of it.
Yep. And this is early Cactus Jack too. So like for them to be in a Texas Death Match, and the whole purpose of this match is that you pin your opponent or you get your opponent down. They can't answer. You pin them, then they can't answer a 10 count.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cactus Jack was indestructible. You know what I mean? Like there's no way he's going to beat Cactus Jack, but it happens. I mean, he gets hit with a stun gun by Harley Race.
Yep.
Which shout out Harley Race at that point, still getting involved in matches.
But what cracks me up is though he starts the stun gun and then he starts it again and then waits till it goes off and then hits Cactus.
With it. Yeah,
it doesn't even have the sound going with it when he hits him with it.
WCW.
Yeah, man.
But it's like you don't need that kind of finish with these two guys.
Right. This was a match that the gimmick you attached to it would have done justice to that.
Yeah.
Let them work.
So 93 was rough. We're not going to get any better, really. I don't think.
No, this was 94.
Halloween Havoc 94.
So 94 was probably the worst pay-per-view WCW ever produced as far as match quality.
Booker T was on the dark match, bro.
Versus Brad Armstrong. I hate Brad Armstrong.
Wait. Booker T was on the dark match.
Yeah.
And Johnny B. Bad was on the actual pay-per-view.
Versus Honky Tonk Man.
Johnny B. Bad
for
probably
the TV
opened
title.
TV title. Yeah.
He probably opened up more WCW pay-per-views than anyone.
They always Johnny B. Bad to be over. I tell you
what though, Mark Marrow could go as Johnny B. Bad.
But that gimmick was
the gimmick was terrible.
He was a little Richard, bro.
Yeah, he was wearing makeup, shooting the little confetti cannon,
throwing out frisbees.
Yeah, I mean, but Mark Marrow could go at that time.
No, he was always a good wrestler.
Especially him in the Pillman matches at that time were bangers.
Again, he was another one like that lightweight division was right there in the mix with.
Yeah.
But I wasn't a fan.
Gimmick was terrible.
Wasn't a fan of Johnny B. Bad. I got tired of watching him come out there and shoot the confetti type thing. It really doesn't get much better than this. Pretty wonderful. Paul Orndorff and Paul Roma, the Pauls.
I hate Paul Roma so much.
Beats Bagwell and the Patriot for the WCW titles.
Every episode it has to have a hatred for Paul Roma.
So here's another example, though. The Patriot, of course, was in WWF just a year prior, wrestling Bret Hart, and now he's in WCW. But he's a tag champ. I didn't even know they held the tag titles. I liked the Patriot as a wrestler, whichever one it was. I think there were two, but I liked the Patriot gimmick. I thought it was pretty great. With the right person, I think it would have worked. But, pretty terrible match. This was little arm Paul Orndorff too. This wasn't big, massive arm Paul Orndorff.
Yeah, and then you had fucking Kevin Sullivan fighting Dave Sullivan.
Evad.
I think that's who the Equalizer was too.
Dave Sullivan?
Dave Sullivan.
Was it?
Yeah, I think so.
Get the fuck out of here.
What is happening in WCW in 1994? Not that WWE was any better in 94.
No, I mean we're hitting a pretty rough patch in both companies.
Oh no, it gets bad. It gets bad.
The talent is insane on the WCW side though.
Well, we'll get. I got a comment to make about that here in just a second. So you got good old Dustin Rhodes versus Arn. Should have been a pretty good match. Of course, Arn tries to cheat using the ropes, but good old Samaritan himself, Mr. Randy Anderson, wouldn't allow it.
He's the fucking good Samaritan.
So then Dustin used the distraction from Randy Anderson to roll him up. Good old schoolboy, get the pin.
An actual finish.
Yep, an actual
Jesus
finish.
Christ.
Yep. Vader beat the Guardian Angel, a.k.a. Big Boss Man, a.k.a. Ray Traylor.
I love Ray Traylor, but why the fuck was he the Guardian Angel? Why was he the Guardian Angel?
Why?
He was the boss.
And that could have been a really good match,
Rick
too.
Ross is not the original boss.
No.
The original boss is Ray Traylor.
You got that damn right shit right.
Get it right.
Nasty Boys beat Terry Funk and Bunkhouse Bunk after Sags pile drives Funk on top of a pumpkin because
God damn it.
you gotta have the pumpkin. You gotta have the pumpkin there.
You gotta get a pumpkin in there.
How dangerous was that though? He pile drove
it was Terry Funk. He didn't care.
R.I.P. Terry Funk, man.
Yeah.
So here we go. Grade A shit show right here.
This is when Hogan. This is Hulk Hogan era.
Flair and Hogan cage match for the WCW title.
Red Hogan.
Also, this was
this
was a cage match for the WCW title, but it was also a career versus career match. Yeah. And Booker T was the special. Mr. T was the special guest referee. Sherry climbs on top of the cage. Jimmy Hart tries to stop her by pulling off her skirts. Then we get buns out Sherry again.
We get
some more Sherry. Way to go, Sherry. Got buns out Sherry. Sting somehow, some way gets involved in this match.
What? Just let him fight. Why is there 70 people?
Because it's Hogan. It's Hogan at this time.
Sting somehow gets involved in this match, but Sting gets attacked by a masked man who had been stalking Hogan for about a month. Right? Hogan unmasked the guy, and it's none other than Brother Brudai. Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
I remember.
That's where he got all those autographs at.
But wait, there's more, because not only did we get Brutus Beefcake debuting, we get Brutus. Hogan retains and then is jumped by Brutus, Kevin Sullivan, and Avalanche. a.k.a. Earthquake.
That guy right there. Both of them get brought up in this episode.
So we're talking about the amount of talent that they had, WCW had, but we get Hogan, who had this clause in his contract that he can make a creative change whenever necessary. Why other people didn't make that change or make that in their contract, I don't get it, because this is just one of many types of matches that Hogan had a terrible finish and somehow, some way come out looking like gold and everyone else looked like shit.
But my thing is, if Hogan wants to go over, okay, just whatever.
Go over.
Just go over and have a good match with Sting and you and Sting, motherfucker.
With Flair,
with
Flair
in
a cage match.
Sting came
Flair
out.
would have done everything Hogan wanted to do in that match. Why did Brutus Beefcake show up? Why was he condoning Hogan? And why did Avalanche join the party? Like, what in the world is going on here?
Anyway,
it's WCW.
Yeah, dude. And in 95, Halloween Havoc. It's keeping up, man. Best match on the card was this. Would you say Malenko and Benoit?
Yeah, I think that's the best one. I didn't really care much for this pay-per-view after that match.
Because it was
it was a dark match.
Yeah, it was a dark match. Bobby Eaton and Regal?
Bobby Eaton and Regal. They were the what was the name of their team? They were. Was it the Blue Bloods? Or was that Regal and Triple H?
I don't know. I think they might have been the Blue Bloods also.
Eaton, Sir Earl, Yep. Yeah, because they came to the ring with Bill Dundee was their manager.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out Bill Dundee.
So this one,
this was a terrible pay-per-view.
It was awful.
Dang.
You got Sting
and Flair. Tag matches,
fucking terrible.
Sting and Flair and Pillman and Arn Anderson.
Yeah, Flair turns on Sting. This was during the time
he just lost the match and wasn't supposed to wrestle no more.
Exactly.
Now, a year later, he's
back. A
year ago in slacks.
A year ago, yes, he came out. So a year ago, he was career versus career.
Yeah, it was.
It was a 2-on-1, and then Flair shows up and he's wrestling in slacks.
Well, and Arn's trying to do the Horseman without Flair or Pillman.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then, what are you going to do, bro? Like, what are y'all? Who's going to be the?
So what happened at the beginning of this pay-per-view was Arn and Pillman jumped Flair. So Flair was actually not even supposed to be able to be in the match, and so then he comes in later on wearing slacks.
Yeah.
Even though his career was ended the year before, he's just right back.
Nothing ever happened.
For some reason, during this one also, Savage and Luger wrestled twice. Savage wrestled the Zodiac, a.k.a. Brutus Beefcake, who replaced Kamala because Kamala didn't want to do the job to Savage, so he quit. Shout out Kamala. Luger wrestled Ming. If both of them won, they would wrestle each other. Why even have those two matches? Why didn't you say? Why not just have Savage and Luger wrestle each other one time?
Dude. I mean,
so Macho cuts his promo on Gene, telling him his mustache is crooked.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad someone said it.
Oh, it's so great. It doesn't get any better in the main event either.
Oh, God, yes.
You get Hogan versus the Giant for the WCW title.
Wait. This is when they did the fucking monster truck.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. Truck, yeah. This is one of the worst moments in WCW history.
The monster truck sumo match where Hogan pushes the Giant's truck out of the little circle.
And then pushes him off the building.
He died during the pay-per-view, and he comes back.
For the main event. And then who else makes their debut in that match? Chance? The Yeti.
Yep.
With no explanation as to why he fell off or what happened there.
That's the one that had the Hogan sandwich.
Yeah, that's where they were humping Hogan in the sandwich.
Yeah.
And then doesn't Luger join the Faces of Fear?
So bad.
In that segment as well?
Yes.
Because Hogan and Macho and Luger come down to the...
Luger was involved in this mix also. Yes,
yeah.
he joined the Dungeon of Doom briefly for I don't know why. But the weird part about this, so Hogan comes out wearing Taskmaster face paint for some reason. I guess this was Dark Side Hogan before NWO.
So stupid.
So Hogan hulks up 3 different times during this match, slamming the Giant. Jimmy Hart gets Hogan disqualified after hitting the ref with the belt. Hart then turns on Hogan by hitting him with the belt. All hell breaks loose. The Yeti debuts. Next night on Nitro, the Giant shows up wearing the WCW title. And Jimmy Hart said he put in his contract that if Hogan gets disqualified, the belt changes hands. So,
what? It's just terrible.
What?
Absolute shit show.
Don't make sense.
Absolute
it's just terrible, dude.
Well, I mean, just absolutely the Yeti.
The Yeti. And
that's your favorite wrestler.
Who was the Yeti?
Reese, I think.
Reese. It was Reese, yeah.
God. Just a Hogan sandwich, and then they did the same thing to Macho.
2 finishes. So I can only imagine what other pay-per-views surrounded this Halloween Havoc for the last 2 years where that was a terrible finish and all this stuff happened. Yeah, I don't know. 96 is actually voted the best Halloween Havoc of all time. This is where you get Malenko, Rey Mysterio.
Great match.
Cruiserweight title.
This is when WCW started picking up a little bit. This is when they started winning.
Yep.
Well,
Monday Night
it's
War.
that mid card into the early
this
card.
This is actually the start of the
Cruiserweights.
NWO angle. This is the start because this is the Outsiders defeating Harlem Heat for the WCW titles also. Hogan and Savage. This is a weird thing. Weird thing here. Like Hogan and Savage WCW title. Of course, there was outside interference. You get the giant chokeslam Savage. Hogan wins, but Roddy Piper debuts.
Yeah.
Piper debuts. Screwy finish, but also not near as bad as the previous 2 years. Somewhat of you expected the Giant to get involved and help out. But, yeah, Piper debuts. So, 97, we get that year-long push of Piper and Hogan, the Icon versus Icon match.
Yeah.
Pretty decent match. I mean, I don't
think it lived up to that year-long
no,
build-up and everything. It could have been so much more, but you're catching them two at the later part of their later stages of their career and everything.
I think this was a chance for, I don't know, Hogan had wrestled everybody at that point.
Yeah, never Piper.
Yeah. I mean,
then you have one of the greatest matches of all time on there. With the mask versus the title match.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that was, and I think so. Rey Mysterio's original mask was stolen by Eddie. He gets it back, swaps out the mask or whatever. But yeah, so really after that match, I didn't really care for another match on that card at all.
Dude,
it was just way too many weird finishes.
That's just WCW. They, especially for big title matches, they never did let them have a fucking match that ended normal.
Yeah,
nobody. I never even wanted to see Piper and Hogan. Even back then, I didn't.
Yeah. But that match was going back and watching that is a freaking treat. The Eddie and
that's definitely a dot.
This was previous. This was Eddie. To me, this was Eddie at his. You start seeing that Eddie's a star.
Yeah.
You're past the cruiserweight Eddie. You start seeing Eddie bulking up a little bit. He's got the Eddie was a great heel. I thought.
Oh yeah.
Thought he worked well as a heel.
Yeah, and then it gets. I mean, it just keeps getting worse.
Yeah.
Halloween Havoc '98. You have the Warrior and Hogan complete disaster.
Terrible match, man.
And the build up for that match was just as bad.
Weird. It was weird because
it's the mirror shit.
It didn't match the energy of the first one. Yeah. I just didn't get it. The thing I remember most about this was the Hogan botched the fireball
where he burned his mustache and eyebrows.
Yeah, I didn't. And then Warrior tries to sell it, but it was the worst. It was so obvious. He's over there trying to light the flash paper.
He burned his fucking self.
Just as we've been going through the Halloween, that's 3 different botches
from Hogan.
And just the big, you had the botch at the Abdul the Butcher.
Yeah.
And then what was the other botch that we was just talking about? But after that, it was in between this one. There was another botch.
There's so many.
Then there was the fireball botch.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was
actually
the great
voted.
The Great Mood of Mist.
Yeah.
With the Thunderdome.
They just need to quit using fire. They shouldn't have never used fire.
That was voted the worst match of the decade.
God,
it should be.
I think it was just a chance for Hogan to try to, beat Warrior, just to say I did that.
Yeah, and then Sting and Bret Hart, I'm like you. I never thought Bret did anything in WCW that was good.
Yeah. Never. I agree with that.
He didn't. You can tell he didn't care. Yeah. And they didn't book him worth a shit.
The only thing
Goldberg kicked his head off.
Yeah. And then I like the whole metal plate thing.
That was dope. Yes.
With him and Goldberg.
The thing was with Bret Hart, you just got one of the biggest stars in WWF history. You come in and he's competing for a mid-card title off the jump. So yeah. You rode him in
validation.
Wrong. He should have immediately come in wrestling for the
he just fought at the Survivor Series for the title. And,
Right.
And then not only does this have this horrible match that is Hogan and Warrior with the Flame fiasco.
You have
the main event.
Which turns out to be a great match.
Should have been, because you got DDP who was on the climb here.
Oh, he was as hot. Going back in 97 and 98, DDP, he's as hot as anybody. As hot as Goldberg at that time. And Goldberg was on top of the mountain.
Yep.
Top of a mountain.
And Stone Cold. But DDP's pops.
Yeah.
And wrestling, that was the Blue Jean DDP days.
Yeah.
That's one thing I don't understand. How do people wrestle in blue jeans?
Dude, I mean, you're DDP and John Cena. That's the only two people that can.
And
the Smoking Guns. The Smoking Guns wrestled in blue jeans.
Yeah.
Well,
and the APA wrestled it. No, they didn't. They had
wrestled as a Yeah, I guess they're getting smoking guns dead. I'm trying to shit on them.
We had to watch the rest of that match on Nitro the next night because
classic WCW.
About
WWF's
10 minutes
never
into the
had a
match,
fuck up like
they
that,
just
No, I mean that's a big one too because like this match starts going and then it all of a sudden
just cuts
off.
It's fucking Goldberg in his prime, bro.
Yeah, and DDP. It's two faces.
They didn't, apparently they didn't request additional time. They could have requested additional time, but they didn't do it.
That's a good way to get people to tune in on Mondays, though.
Absolutely.
But they,
Well, yeah.
think about how many people got refunds though.
I bet.
Yeah.
Oh, they lost. They probably lost their ass on this one.
Yeah, and then it just falls apart after this. 99 Halloween Havoc.
I just watched this one the other day. Just rewatched it because I remembered it, but I rewatched it. This was the lowest rated Halloween Havoc in history.
Who the fuck is Berlin?
I have no idea.
Das Wonder Kid.
Oh.
Oh God.
Berlin. Das Wonder Kid.
Brad Armstrong fought him.
Das Wonder Kid. Alex Wright.
In '99, we're still getting Brad Armstrong.
And you wonder why it was the lowest rated.
And Rick Steiner fought Chris Benoit for the ECW title.
Really good match. Really good match.
Yeah. You want to get into the Hogan?
Yep. Another reason why I hate Hogan. Here we go. So we got Sting supposed to wrestle Hogan for the WCW title again. Hulk Hogan's music hits. He's nowhere to be found. And they're like, well, and this is what I hate about the commentary team is that they stated the obvious all the time. Well, what's going on? Where's Hogan? Where's Hogan at? And so Sting's music hits. Sting comes out carrying the title.
That Mean Gene knows.
Comes out carrying the title. And then he goes, well, are we going to get Hogan's music now? Go ahead and hit his music. So he hits his music. Hogan walks out wearing blue jeans and a black vest. And he walks into the ring and he whispers something to Sting. Then he lays down. Sting takes the title. So then we get Goldberg and Sid for the U.S. title right after that.
Goldberg's fighting for the U.S. title the next year.
Yeah. Goldberg wins. Goldberg wins the U.S. title because the referee stopped him. He beat the fire out of Sid. Mm-hmm. Sting comes to the ring then and says, I came for a fight. Anybody back there wants a fight?
I want to fight.
I want to fight. Goldberg's music hits. The commentating team says this is not a title match, but the announcer, was it Gary Michael Capetta still, or was it somebody else at this point, says this match is for the World Heavyweight title. It's actually they dubbed it as a champion versus champion, so basically both belts are on the line. Pretty short match or whatever, so Goldberg wins. They announce him the new WCW champion. The next night, Sting comes out in street clothes, calls out Dylan and says, hey, I didn't agree to this match. I want my title back. He goes, Goldberg is not the champion, but neither are you, because apparently he attacked good old Randy Anderson. So, no, he attacked Lil Nate. So he beat up Lil Nate, and he says, because of that, you're no longer the WCW champion either. So this whole thing was this whole...
Just a shit show.
This cluster.
Absolute shit show.
But the one reason I hate Hogan, that's twice he's been involved in a shitty match for the WCW title where
I think we've talked about 4 of them.
Terrible finish. Episode. No, one that was just the dumbest finish ever. But yeah, Hogan, you can kiss my ass. That's just that's simple. I hope you're watching. Block me on Twitter.
And then the last WCW one, Halloween Havoc 2000. This is when Jarrett was doing what he was doing with the title stuff.
Yeah.
Was it Sting and Jarrett for the title in this one?
Yeah. So this was. I don't know if this one was for the this one wasn't for the title.
But it was they just fought. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Booker T were for the title that night.
What I liked about this one was Sting and Jarrett did Jeff Jarrett brought out several different people dressed up as Sting. Mm-hmm. So they started including different variations of Sting in this one. And to me, 99 and 2000 Sting, he was in better shape then than he was in any point in his career. I felt like he looked like he was in great shape. But I was always a fan of Sting and Jarrett's rivalry, all the way from WCW all the way to TNA. I thought that was a very good. You got a really good heel Jarrett. You got the ultimate babyface in Sting. I always thought they had really good matches. I loved watching them the early days of TNA. Yeah, definitely. So
I wonder. I don't know if they wrestled in AEW yet, but that could happen.
That might happen. Honestly, it wouldn't be a bad one.
Crazy
if Sting
to think
decides
about.
He wants to hang it up. It wouldn't be a bad one to go against. But yeah, I was a really big fan of this match. I also really liked the Steiner and Booker T for the WCW title. Yeah. I really loved seeing Steiner by himself in that element. He couldn't cut a promo to save his life, but I really liked his character.
Big Papa Pump.
Big Papa Pump. Holla if you hear me. Yep. Big Booty Daddy. I got your hook up, Holly. I loved all of that about Steiner.
And of course, that was the last WCW.
After that, NXT started doing they started running them.
I've never even seen any of them.
I didn't even know they did that.
The only thing I remember about this is they have a spin the wheel, make the deal match at almost every one of these. The last one I watched was pretty good. It was a triple threat match for the NXT title, but I only watched that mainly because of Braun Breaker. Those of y'all who don't know who Braun Breaker is, that's Rick Steiner's son, Scott Steiner's nephew.
Superstar in the making.
He'll be main event WrestleMania in like 2 years probably. Mm-hmm. So
you think he could be the one that dethrones Reigns?
No, I don't think that.
No, that's going to be Gunther.
That'll probably be Gunther.
I think they're going to take the belt off Gunther, and that's going to be the next.
Gunther just passed Honky Tonk Man.
Yeah.
Yep.
For the longest reigning. So, I haven't really gotten into the NXT stuff much as far as Halloween Havoc goes, but just a long history of terrible matches one after another. And I don't know why they let these guys get away with changing these finishes or even who thought it was a good idea for some of these finishes, but there were some gems in there. But overall,
it was going back and watching as a kid, they were a whole lot more the nostalgia factor going into them. But going back and watching them, these pay-per-views were not that good.
And it makes me think, like, the last 4 years of WCW, like, why did I like WCW so much?
Yeah.
It's bad, bro.
It's bad.
It's bad.
Very
everything
bad,
was like, everything was a run-in or disqualification or 50 people in the ring fighting.
The pay-per-views weren't that good, but the Nitros...
were
a lot better.
The Nitros
back
finished
then.
the same way. There's always screwy finishes with those too.
Yeah.
Well, they had some good. The NWO angle, of course, was great. Sting's angle during that time was great. You had the Four Horsemen reuniting was great. Like we've talked about all WCW's highlights, but they couldn't finish a match for any. I think it was one of those instances where you had way too many people with their hands in the pot saying, "No, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do that."
Yep.
So,
It's
awful.
But yeah, man, Halloween Havoc. That was Halloween Havoc. You know what I mean?
It's what it is.
It's WCW.
Yeah, we felt like for the month of October, it was only fitting.
It was only appropriate.
You know, us only doing one episode for wrestling this month. We'll be back to our 2 next month for November. I know we need to do a Survivor Series.
Yep, that's most
retrospective. We need to get Brandon E for that one. Get him in there. That'd be dope. But always thank y'all for supporting. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications every Thursday at 7 p.m.
Yep.
And obviously, the previous week we did on Friday the 13th because it was the Friday 13th.
It was only fitting.
So that's the only time we'll probably do that. But hit the subscribe button. Also tap in with the sponsors. You got Trouble Spirits, Nixon Pro Media, and
Revolution 1 Media.
Hit that motherfucking cash out.
We out this motherfucker.
Bow.